When I finished this very first long walk, I realized that I've changed. 1 degree every day maybe, but in the end of the journey, probably I was 180 degrees in a different direction. It was the image of myself. That was the most difficult thing. I have built this idea, and maybe not only the idea. I was a bit lost because this new version of me was very hard to relate with the previous image, and I lost a bit ground. The common thread is that actually you end up a program like this to believe a lot more in yourself, to see yourself way more clear, to see the next steps that you want to do. And quite often, they don't involve big actions in your life, but the actions that you decide to pursue work like a lever or a domino effect in your life. So once you start moving in that direction, other things will follow. And that moment usually takes you to what is truly fundamental to your life. And usually, the things that are fundamental to our lives force us to show ourselves in a way that we usually don't do it in our daily day.
Today I'm talking with Joao Viana. Joao left a successful career in the corporate world to build something most people wouldn't attempt to, a walking mentorship, where he walks alongside people for days at a time through places like Via Virginia to Rome. Welcome to the Midlife Remix.
Hello, Stephen. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to walk with you today.
You had a successful corporate career. Can you describe this moment and maybe that feeling, not the decision, when you first sensed that something was wrong or that something was shifting?
I think life happened in a beautiful way. At the same time, very fast. I think I lived in a very, very fast lane for many years, but I really enjoyed that fast lane, I should say it. So I think I try all the time to understand what life was asking me from one side and what life was giving me from another side. And maybe I will add what I wanted from life. So these three things were kind of playing together and not speaking the same language, because I remember to be absolutely in love with the corporate life because it was such a thrilling, exhilarating experience. Every day was, I worked first I started working at digital, then I moved to strategic planning, and I ended up actually working most of my life in operations and restructuring. And if I can add that in another life that I definitely don't remember, I think I graduated from law school. So all this experience, I think they gave me incredible perspective about human nature, because I worked a lot with a lot of different people, different backgrounds, geographies, thanks. But there was always something in the back of my mind, especially when I was quiet, which did not happen very often. But when I was quiet, there was kind of this little voice that took me back to experience. I believe in 1993, I had an experience that changed probably my whole future. And I think I was not really aware of that. And that experience was a walk, pilgrimage. Probably the reasons I went on that trip were very different from what I could say on this podcast. But anyway, everything is valuable if it takes you to the best version of yourself. But anyway, my friends, they promise a lot of fun on this trip. So I have to say that was the trigger. But when I finished this very first long walk and I looked at myself, I realized that I've changed. It was impressive, because usually I thought that change was like a moment that you feel it and suddenly everything changes in your life. And what I noticed is that it was not like that. It was a very slow, gradual process. 1 degree every day maybe, but in the end of the journey, probably I was 180 degrees in a different direction. And I remember saying to myself, maybe a bit shy, because the idea was so perfect, so beautiful, that it was very scary. which is, if I can choose one day, I would like to do this in my life. It was so perfect that I immediately put it on the side and said, don't throw it away, but definitely don't touch it now. So I went on this. I like to refer my internship in the corporate world for 20 plus years, which I'm very grateful. It is the fact that I was there that allows me today to be able to listen to what some people tell me and really understand what they are saying, because I think I know their happiness, but I also know their pain.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I can very much relate to that. I had almost a 25, 30-year career, corporate career, or business career, because I was an entrepreneur most of my life. The ups and downs of that life enable you to relate to people, and it does prepare you for the kind of work that we're doing, even though we do different work, and in many ways it's very similar. I'd love to hear from you. What was the hardest thing for you to let go when you left? Not maybe practically, but in terms of who you understood yourself to be.
It's an amazing question. It was the image of myself. That was the most difficult thing. I have built this idea, and maybe not only the idea. I think there were many times in my life that I've proven to be useful, and whatever people think it's success, but I think I've done a good job most of the times. And I built this idea of a very, maybe a bit serious, very professional, very sharp young man. And when I decided that I needed to give this opportunity to myself, I was a bit lost, because this new version of me was very hard to relate with the previous image. And I lost a bit ground. I remember one day I was looking at my LinkedIn profile, and I thought, this looks so neat. What am I going to write now? Should I change my picture and be honest and, put the guy, instead of the guy with the suit and the tie, a guy with a backpack, and in his office, which my office is always outdoors? And what should I write? Backpacker? I mean, that was difficult. And without hesitation, I have to say that the first 2 years, I think I tried probably as much as I could to kill the project Walking Mentorship, and I failed epically. But I failed not because of me. I think there was definitely other forces, mainly other people, that took me by the hand when I didn't want to do that path. And they took me where I am today. So I cannot be grateful enough to the people that have support me, believe in me, and gave me the feedback that allowed me to fine-tune to this labor of love that Walking Mentorship is today.
Yeah, I really love that, because you say it's simple, but actually it's really very profound and very very true for everyone. That's the hardest part, is that identity shift, right? Because we so much identify with who we are, or who we think that we are, which in reality is just a story that we've been telling ourselves. And so when we're shifting, we have to tell ourselves a new story, and letting go of that old story is super hard. I have these conversations almost daily with people, where I tell them, you already know what you need to do, but they can't let go yet. And that yeah, it took you 2 years, which I think is actually quite fast. It took me probably about 8 years. So you call the idea of Walking Mentorship totally crazy at the beginning. What made you do it anyway?
I think there's a pattern in my life, so I kind of follow. Um, I'm a very rational, cerebral person, but at the same time, I'm a very spontaneous person when I feel that it's the right thing to do. There was a lot of components that exist in the Walking Mentorship that I knew. I feel very comfortable with them. I'm an adventurous person. I grew up in the Boy Scouts, so outdoors has been my second home, or maybe my first home. I have a hard time to get lost in the woods, so that's kind of safe for others. I like to be with other people. I'm a people's person, even knowing that I like more to listen than to talk. So there was a lot of things that I thought I can guarantee that. Then there is a level of curiosity, which is very much related with my love for research and learning. More than research, I would even say learning. And when life gives you an opportunity to do something new or something innovative, let's say, actually what life is giving you is the opportunity to learn. I mean, that's it. And So this, let's say, mixture was perfect because it fall exactly in the moment of my life that I needed to wait between assignments, because what I was doing, I was going to one place to another. So usually I needed to wait a little bit in between. And I just didn't want it to. I'm a kind of a restless soul. So being 2-3 months at home sounds like a nightmare for me. And I thought, I'm going to use some of this time maybe to pick up that crazy idea from 1993, and which, by the way, had few interactions. I have to say, there were few moments that I kind of went back to the same idea, usually making mistakes and learning from them, because honestly speaking, that's really the way you can learn, or that's the way I learned the best. And the crazy idea, I think it's mainly because when you search for something that you want in your life and you don't find it, you should think two things, and both of them be very careful. One is that it's so crazy and dumb that somebody already tried and you are just another one about to fail, or it's so crazy and innovative that you actually need to spend a good part of your life evangelizing people to explain that people should jump on board on your hallucination and believe it's a good thing. So when I did my research and I wrote about Walking Mentorship, and I thought, I'm sure I'm going to find, hundreds or thousands of results. And I found none. Almost everything is created, invented. How can you create a word or a category or whatever you want to call it? So crazy, I think, comes from here, which is you realize that you are about to open a box, that you have no idea what is inside, and you don't know how deep that area is. And then willingly, because nobody forced me, you go and you move forward. Mm-hmm. It's a bit crazy, I think, Stephen. I think it's a bit crazy. But as I like to say, good crazy.
Yeah. So there for you to do some of these things, and I forget the exact words that you use, but you jump into things, you said, or something like that, right? And there must be some kind of belief or faith in yourself or in something that you have, that you are able and willing to do that.
I am a man of faith. I have a very strong belief that there is a force, creative power that is, I don't really need to label it with any name. I really believe that there is something that is way bigger than what I can see and way, way bigger than what I can understand. But honestly, just because I don't see it and just because I don't understand it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So that's why I'm saying I'm a man of faith, because this is it's a leap of faith. You just cannot get there any other way. So probably there is a reason for many things. There is a reason why we are talking here today. Some of the reasons we will understand clearly, some we will never understand. And it's super easy if we think about the person that you don't know, I don't know, that will listen to this conversation, and something will tick and something will change in that life. So we never know. One part I think is definitely a need to believe, at least up to a certain extent, you need to believe a little bit in yourself, because otherwise you just have so many doubts that if you put on top doubts about yourself fully, then you don't move. So I think you need a bit of balance, a bit of belief in yourself, and actually knowing exactly what you don't know. And I don't know a lot. So what I know, I'm going to use it. What I don't know, I'm going to try to learn. I'm going to try to reach for it. And some things I'm going to accept that I will never know. And then the second part, or the other part of the other face, the other side of the coin, I think, is this belief that if you conspire with the universe conspires back to you. I like to believe that I'm a man of luck, and I always met luck halfway. So I did my part. And luck does its own part as well. And then we meet in the middle. And on that sense, I think that life with faith, no matter in what, it's a more interesting life, because you keep adding mystery to your life. And life without mystery, I think, can be very dull, very boring.
Yeah, very, very beautifully said. I think that we have a very similar view of that, and maybe use different words for it. But I think, yeah, for me, faith is very important, and I think actually faith is different than belief. I think belief is more rigid, right? Belief is believing in a doctrine or believing in very specific things, whereas faith is something that is something in the unknown and in the exploration and in about learning. And one of the things that I try to practice and I try to work with my clients on is that the one faith to really have is that we can't control the things that are going to happen. But if we have faith, then we are going to be able to figure out how to deal with any situation. I think it's a very important subject that not many people want to touch, but I think it's really fundamental to a certain kind of living.
Indeed.
Do you describe your walking programs as a trip to the moon? Which I love that when you said that. It's far from home, but very familiar. What surprises people about themselves doing these walks?
Well, I think it depends where you are in your journey, but usually there is a common thread. And the common thread is that actually you end up a program like this, a walk like this, to believe a lot more in yourself, to see yourself way more clear, to see the next steps that you want to do way more clear. And I think it's very subtle, because any of these things I mentioned, they're very subtle. And quite often they don't involve big actions in your life, but the actions that you decide to pursue they will work like a lever or a domino effect in your life. So once you start moving in that direction, other things will follow. But the most important, I think, it's you realize that you're probably much, much better person. You are much, much stronger person that whoever is around you quite often tries to convince you. And this is very beautiful because people become much lighter. I have to say people become much prettier as well, because one of the things I really enjoy with my business partner, Nunu, is that in the beginning, he actually mentions often that we should try to take a picture in the first day of their faces and in the last day. I know that in the first day, it's super hard. Nobody wants to be on a camera. But I can tell you that in the last moment of the program, when we take a picture, quite often we see different people. And it's amazing, actually, because I think that if you take that learning with you back home, you should be able to reconnect with those ideas, with those feelings when you need it, and bring back that lightness into your life.
I could imagine that the inner voice could be in the beginning very loud. And a lot of times when we have very fast lives and we don't really pay attention too much, but of course the inner voice always is talking to us. It often is a negative voice, and it talks badly to us and it makes us feel bad. And one of the things that I heard through what you're saying is that there's some kind of acceptance that's happening in this walk, that you feel better about yourself.
Well, it's a beautiful question. I think few things happen in such an experience. And the first one is you create the space and the time, because both things should be combined, space and time, because sometimes we are in the right place, but we don't have the time, or vice versa, to start listening to ourselves. This is something very important, because quite often our voice is brutally honest. We use the expression quite often. We ask people to be not only honest, but to be brutally honest. And why do we use this expression? Because we know that if you allow yourself to listen to your voice, you will be brutally honest, because your voice is always like that. And then you will start putting things in perspective and you gain clarity, which means some things are definitely more important than others. Some things you give a lot of importance and they don't deserve that energy and importance. And quite often things that are absolutely critical to your life receive very little attention from you. That's a very big step. Once you go there, you start naturally realizing that you need to make some fine-tuning in your life. Start doing more of something and probably stop doing something. And this is all about defining a better criteria to live your life, because I think you do need a criteria, and you have plenty of opportunities to decide what to do. Plenty. Every day we have probably hundreds of opportunities to decide type of thoughts we want to have, the way I want to look at things, the way I want to look at other people, the way I want to look at myself. Words are powerful. So as you start listening to this voice, and basically this voice is made of words, and words are powerful, then you start facing kind of a conundrum, which is, if I have clarity about what I need to do I want to do? Do I want to implement this in my life? And this is where we usually call it the sharp corner of the program. Because until this moment, believe me, food is great, the walk is great, walk with other people, everything is great. there is no commitment, right? But the moment that you need to face two things, what you want to do, which can lead to question yourself, what is my purpose? And this is a big one for most people. And then we try to match your purpose with the actions that you want to implement. Well, then there is no turning back, because the moment you do this match, it means that the next step is about, okay, this hard conversation I've been delaying for many years, I'm going to do it. This topic that I haven't solved with, my family, I'm going to do it. And sometimes, this job or career that is definitely taking me away from myself is going to stop, or I'm going to go back and I'm going to be so much better at what I'm doing because I really love what I do. I think this is where the voice plays a very important role. We can call it conscious. I usually don't think we need a name for it, but I can tell you that actually we learned this in a monastery that we visit in the north of Spain, in the Galicia, in the Camino de Santiago. In this monastery, it says something like this at the entrance. This is a place where silence speaks. So, silence speaks very, very loud. I think that some people in a moment like this, especially if you're not really used to it, it can be very daunting, very challenging. And you might want to run away from there as fast as you can. The good thing is that we are walking, and walking and running doesn't match much. So you actually have to walk it through.
Yeah, I think it's that is the walking is really a very gentle modality for silence, because you could do a 10-day silent retreat, which I think is can be a quite violent silence, because you have zero distraction, and so you just have to spend with that inner voice the entire time, which most people are petrified of doing. But when you're walking, I mean, people also do walking meditation, right? So that's similar in that sense, right? But then you also have other people around you. One of the things that we've talked about is that sometimes you do one-on-one, or you also do one-on-one walks. And we've talked about that this might be the first time that somebody actually is seeing them.
Yes.
Talk to me about the importance of that and what happens when people first get seen.
Well, Stephen, maybe I should start by saying that the one-on-one programs was not our idea, and definitely not my idea. And for me, this was very unusual, a bit surprising, and almost scary, because I thought, I mean, how can I spend 7, 8 days with one person only? Well, but the thing is, when you walk with someone and you talk and you listen with someone for many days and actually many kilometers, and life continues to unfold around you, there is a moment that even if you are really good at how to say easy talk, there is a moment that you don't have enough, so you will need to go somewhere else. And that moment usually takes you to what is truly fundamental to your life. And usually the things that are fundamental to our lives force us to show ourselves in a way that we usually don't do it in our daily day. I know it sounds it's a bit of a pity, but it's true. We have so many layers and we protect ourselves so many times that we just get used not to share that part. But then, the road is endless, and you realize that, I mean, since I'm here, why not? Why not talk about it freely? And the conversation starts rolling from one side to another, vice versa. And you have this incredible opportunity to listen to the other person, even if the topics can be conflicting, diverse in a way that I don't really agree with them, or I can strongly disagree with them, or they can even be ethically questionable. But then you have this incredible opportunity for yourself and for the other person to tell him or her, that I'm listening to you and I'm really here listening to you. And what I see is that from the other side, which can be me as well, when you explain, when you make clear your idea, first of all, you organize your thoughts. It's a little bit like, now I think people don't do it anymore, but many years ago when you had a computer, there will be this option to defragment the disk and try to organize. I think it's a little bit what you do. You are doing that with your internal disk. You organize things. You also release things, because I go back to the notion, words are very powerful. And when you say it, especially if it's really painful, and I can hear things such as related with very deep relationships, parents, kids, brother and sister, and so on. And the moment you put it out and you are sure that the person in front of you is listening to you, it's not so heavy anymore. It's bearable because I have said it. It's out. And then it returns back to me as something way more clear and maybe with a real dimension, which maybe it's not so big. Maybe it's big, but maybe it's not so big. And then I can fold it and I can put it back on my backpack and I continue, even knowing that some topics, some matters, they need to return again and again over the years because you don't do it at once. They have many different layers. But having someone nearby listening to you, sometimes I think it's the best thing I can say. It's the best thing I can do. And actually, quite often, it's the best version of myself.
Yeah. And what enables you to stay present in those moments?
Well, I think there's a couple of skills that are helpful. Patience is one of them because some people need to go many miles around to get to a point that you already understood after 5 minutes. So you need to be patient. But at the same time, when you're patient, you realize that there are actually important learnings on this journey, very long one, for yourself. That's one. I think another important thing is the fact that you know the reason why you are doing what you're doing. Purpose. I know the reason of my purpose, and my purpose is very, very clear. It hasn't changed for some years. There was a time it evolved, so I needed to sharpen a little bit. But every time I have a doubt, actually, I go back to my purpose and I ask, is this serving my purpose? If the answer is yes, and even if it's something I really don't like it, probably I will do it. And the opposite also true. Something very exciting, but definitely not serving my purpose. Maybe I should be careful and say, not now. Great, thank you. So I would say purpose, patience, and maybe I will add my spiritual dimension on it, which is faith. Because I believe that I can do what I can do with what I know, what I have, and that's it. And then there is another dimension, so which is I'm going to do everything I can now, and then I end it over to whoever created the whole thing. Let them do their work as well, and that's it. It's very beautiful because it's as if many different forces contribute to the same experience and to the end result, and everybody knows exactly what they need to do, even if you are not aware of that yourself.
You had mentioned to me that it shocks you how most people that you walk with are actually quite lonely, and even not that they're not alone, they're quite lonely. When you did notice this pattern, and has it changed your view on connection with people? What has it taught you?
Well, loneliness, I think in my opinion, I think it's the biggest disease of our century because it is so powerful that most people don't even want to talk about it. It's easier to talk about other diseases, but not loneliness, because that puts you immediately in a position where you would feel less. So I think that's the main reason why people don't talk about it. Of course, that when you have a chance to be with someone for a longer time, you understand for certain conversations that that person is more or less lonely. I give you an example. There is one exercise that's in some programs we do that I like very much. And this is an exercise kind of, it's a little bit like your personal warehouse where you are invited to think about your strengths and weaknesses. So everybody more or less have done that. But we invite you to pick up your phone during the walk and call or message or send an audio message asking other people what they believe are your strengths and weaknesses. This is challenging because we don't specify if this is to work or personal relations, is whatever. And this is the moment when you realize that some people struggle because some people have a really hard time to identify other people they feel okay to call and ask for this. And sometimes they even hear things like, I'm not sure they want to say friends, I'm not sure I have these people to call. And this is hard to listen. Of course, that sometimes there are also some ironic things and quite of fun. I remember one gentleman that doing this precise exercise, he looked at me very clear and said, I'm not doing the exercise. I said, okay, these are only suggestions. But then he came back and he asked, but do you really think this is important to do? I said, well, it is. That's why we are suggesting. And then I think he mumbled something like, I don't have anyone to call or something. Okay. So I think he was feeling pretty lonely. But then he stayed a little bit behind and he talked so loud on the phone that unfortunately I could not avoid to listen. And I'm sure that he was calling his assistant or his secretary. And his first words were very ironic because he said, "Hello, I'm going to ask you, this, and that, but I want to tell you up front one thing. Whatever you answer, I'm not going to fire you." And what it's interesting, and I think that in the end of the day, we talked, then he spent actually the whole day doing the exercise, and I'm sure that he called a lot more people. And in the end of the day, what he said was, this was one of the best days of my life.
Wow.
And I asked him why. I mean, you are the one that in the morning told me that you didn't want to do the exercise. And he said something, look, usually I would say, I don't care what other people think about me. I don't care. But I'm very surprised about what other people think about me. And I really like to listen what they said. And by the way, my assistant that I called, she sent me, I don't know, 5 or 6 audios of about 45 minutes because she's been with me for 30 years. And she basically revised my whole life of the last 30 years in terms of strengths and weaknesses. And I realized that actually I am surrounded by amazing people. So yes, people are lonely, but I also think that many people think they are lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And between being lonely and thinking that you are lonely, that can be quite a distance. And often, I think what you need to do is a little bit like watering the plants. Once in a while, don't expect replies. Once in a while, call your friends, send a message, ask how they are doing. And you know what? You will never get less. So, some people are worried, oh, but they don't reply. I mean, don't wait for the reply. Water the plants. And I think that just by watering the plants of your friends, of your relations, for sure, you are not feeling as lonely as you think you are.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of it, and we talked about this earlier a little bit, has to do with the masks that we continue to wear. And when we let go of that mask to a friend, we become vulnerable. And if we open ourselves up and we are vulnerable, then it also allows the other person to be vulnerable too. And when we're both vulnerable, we have a real conversation. And I
Yes.
think that that's what we're missing, is that we're talking about things that actually matter to us. Right? Having those vulnerable conversations is really what enables us to be seen.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. It's not the first time. It happened few times that I'm on a walk with a person, and if the talk, or after a few days, the talk gets really, really deep, you listen something like, I would like to tell you something that I never told anyone. And it's a very special moment because, of course, in my first thought, because I'm human. So my first thought is, I'm not sure I want to hear what you want to tell me, but I don't say that. I just think about it. And then usually it's something so pure, so straight from the fountain of your heart. And again, it goes back to what we talked before. Just by listening to something that maybe you really never told anyone can be a turning point in your life. So why not to be there as a witness and at the same time as the walking companion that you need in that moment?
Yeah. If you could talk to your former corporate self, not to persuade him to leave, but just to sit with him, what would you want him to know?
Don't worry too much, Joao. Don't worry too much. I'm a thinker, which means I spend most of my days thinking and thinking about what I'm thinking. And quite often, what unfolds in front of us, it's quite different. And all your worries, actually, they didn't really help you. So I would say that I like to control things in a sense that I'm responsible, but at the same time, I think it's important to keep telling myself. So actually, I'm telling that to my younger self, and I'm telling that to my older self, both ways, and say, don't worry too much. Worry, but there is a moment that you actually just need to trust. If nothing else makes sense, honestly, smile, because it really helps.
Yeah, the worrying part is almost universal, I think. Most people continue to worry because they believe that the worry will enable them to do the right things or will help them control the things that they can't control. And in reality, the worry creates fear, and fear creates cortisol in our body, and it shuts down our organs and shuts down our creativity. And then we make bad decisions. And if we're able to let go of that fear, of that worry. We're starting to live in love and in presence and in opportunity. And that's a much nicer space to be in than to be in that worry space. For our listeners, what are two things that they can do right away that would be a good practice for them that they could take away from our talk today?
First thing is open the door and go for a walk as many times as you can. For obviously health and physical reasons, you should do a short walk after every meal. We know that for many, many years. We should greet the day in a way that help us to understand how we want to live the day. Do that while walking. And never miss a night walk when you have a beautiful sky above your head, stars or a moon. So movement at your own rhythm, which is walking, by the way. And I have nothing against running or any other sources, but walking is our natural way. Walk alone and walk with friends. If you have a difficult conversation to do, take that person on a walk with you. Because no matter how different you think about the solution, by walking in the same direction side by side, you are definitely getting closer to an agreement and a common understanding. That's one. So a lot of walk, that's what I will prescribe. Maybe the second thing, which is very dear to the work we do, all you need actually it's paper and a pen. Write. Because when you write, and there are two moments of the day that are absolutely beautiful to write. When you wake up, you want probably to reflect how you want to live your day. How do I want to show up today? Write it down. Words are powerful. Write them down. And then the day is done, and basically you really don't have much more to do on that day. Maybe you can sit down again and look at what you wrote, okay? And based on that, I think it can make a lot of sense to write down how do you think your day was, and maybe how you would have maybe changed, you could have done slightly different, because that can be incorporated on the next days. I would say these two things, and maybe a thought that came to me by a good friend a couple of days ago. And this is related with don't miss a walk and don't miss a day of writing. Imagine reading a book with no way to turn the page back. How carefully would you read it? That's life. So
It's very beautiful. And I have not heard that. And I really like that a lot, because there are times when I'm reading and I put the book down and then I miss the page and I try to find it and I'm reading and I'm reading. And at some point, I'm like, I read this before. But in that moment, it seems like it was the first time that I'm reading it. So obviously I did not pay attention when I was reading it the first time. That's a very beautiful practice. I would love to go on a walk with you, and I encourage anyone to reach out to you if they want to do a wonderful walk with the Walking Mentorship.
well, thank you, Stephen, for having me here to hear me so I could feel heard. It's very beautiful. Every time you have an opportunity to share something about of your life, you end up learning about your own life. And I really hope as well. I mean, there's plenty to choose during the year. We have many different places, from Japan to many places in Europe, Africa, US. I mean, this is an incredible planet. I mean, wherever I look, there's always a path waiting to discover, and an opportunity actually to be grateful about being here now in this planet, when so many people feel pain and despair, but where the vast majority of people in this planet actually want peace and good things and live in harmony with each other. So I rather stay with the second.